What is going on, guys? Welcome to Extreme Daily Drivers. We are always balling on a budget and wrenching in a garage. Happy Toaster Tuesday. Finally, a nice day. It's literally been weeks since I've had a day where it hasn't poured rain or felt like a tropical just depression is sitting on us. So super happy to be in the garage today filming. It is 90 degrees out, but at least it's not 90 plus 100% humidity. So as promised, today's video is going to be all about the suspension. As you guys know, several weeks ago I installed CX Racing Coilovers. Today we're going to be adjusting them as well as me giving you kind of a review. Let me show you where it currently sits at. Alright, this is the current setup here. How low am I? I would say I am probably 2.5 inches in the front and I am probably 2 inches in the rear. So as you can tell, I've got new wheels since I've gone ahead and installed these coilovers. So previously in the old coilover video, I did measure the ride height. That's changed a little bit since I've gotten the wheels. So let's go ahead and do another measurement and see where we're at. Alright, here in the driver's rear, I am at 23.5. Here at the driver's front, I'm just about at 23. Passenger side front, right around 23. And here we are passenger side rear, and I am at 23.5. So for the most part, this hasn't settled all that much. I have almost 1,000 miles on this car since I've done the coilover installation. I have not done an alignment yet because I haven't got it at the right ride height yet. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the uniformity kind of the lowering. It's not lopsided one side or the other, and I measured before I adjusted. So what I'm saying is that I sit in this car all day long on the driver's side. It's not massively lower on the driver's side than it is on the passenger side. And so that's good. That means whatever adjustments I make today, I should be able to keep them even, and I should wind up with an even ride height. So not only are we going to be messing with the ride height today, we are going to take out the 1/2 inch spacers that I have inside this fender. And we are also going to add 5mm wheel spacers to the rear wheels. So as you guys know, I got these new lug nuts, and I complained about them in the last video because they're a little bit of a process. You got to take these little internal caps out, whoops, and then drop them on the ground every time because they're so little. But they do have a little kind of gasket on there to prevent water from getting in. And this little key they give you, it's made out of plastic so it doesn't damage this. However, it is so soft that I've actually kind of rounded it off already inside these little caps. So whenever I'm messing with lug nuts, I always use my breaker bar with this kind of protective lug nut socket on here. It's 19mm. You can get this guy off Amazon. I'll put a link down below if you're interested. But I've had this guy for a while, as you can tell, and does a really good job kind of protecting everything as you're removing your lug nuts so you don't screw it up. So if you guys watched the last video, you know that these lug nuts have kind of like a spinning end. And that way they don't mar up your wheel too much once you go ahead and install them. And so far so good. I mean, this lug nut still looks really good. And the wheels, they really don't show too much wear. I mean, certainly it's a lot worse if you go ahead and use a regular aluminum or steel lug nut that doesn't have this spinning base. People keep asking me for a link to these things, and I'm not listing links for eBay anymore because every time I do they expire, and then everyone starts hitting me up saying, hey, your link's expired. So if you want to buy these things, go to eBay just like I did, search on them, you'll find them. It's not that hard. Alright guys, here is the coilover front driver's side, still looking pretty much brand new. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the space in between the rings here because we're going to be dropping this thing, so it's actually going to get shorter. Alright, so let's see where we're at here. So that's the space. I want to shorten this by 1/2 inch. So we went ahead and loosened that up, and now I'm just about at 3/4 of an inch. I wonder if that'll be too low. Let's go ahead and see. There we go. Look at that. You see the hub raising up? Hope you can see that. This is spinning so easily. My goodness, it's like a dream. Alright, so I just bottomed out. So now I'm going to go ahead and tighten this bottom collar with the adjusting tool here, and we want it tight. Give it a little, don't want that coming loose. Alright, it's our new ride height. Let's see how low it is. Alright, now before I put that wheel back on, I want to take that spacer out there that I installed several months ago so that my fenders would clear my old wheel setup. I got a 7.5 inch wheel now and a higher offset, so I no longer need these spacers. Alright guys, fender spacer is removed. Lug nuts are just hand tight. We lowered this thing 3/4 of an inch in the front. Let's see how low we are. You know what? Before I even do this, I want to put something under the tire because I don't think I'm going to be able to get the jack out. All right, got some wood under there. Here we go. Let's see. Dude, I think that's pretty damn good. I don't know about you guys, I'm pretty happy with that. First of all, with that spacer removed, that is much better fitting. And yeah, I can get my fingers in there. It's not slammed, but it is pretty low. All right, guys, I just went ahead and backed it off the wood. And let's see where we're at here. Nice, we met our goal. We came down a 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna go ahead and jack the car up, remeasure the space on the coilover. That way I can duplicate it on the other side. All right, guys, fronts are done, and it really couldn't have gone any smoother except for removing my little 1/2 inch spacers that I had up in those fenders because, man, there's not a lot of room in there to work, and it's just super awkward. But I got those things removed, and I think the fender / tire fitment is much better. Again, it's not hella flush or anything like that, but it's definitely better. Also, super happy with this front height. I think this is really perfect. I was able to get my jack in and out. I don't need to actually drop it down on wood like I did earlier, and man, I just think it looks great. So before I close up the hood here and finish up the front end, I do want to point out one thing about these coilovers. Now, these coilovers are adjustable. It's like a 28, 32 way, whatever it is. It's got a million different adjustments, and you can actually adjust the rebound on the front suspension. And the way that works is you come here to your top hat, and it may be a little hard to see here, but there's a little rubber boot sitting inside the shock head here, and you remove that boot and you lower in one of their adjustment tools here. Now, the problem with the tool is really the XB, right? So I can't slide this in here and make an adjustment because of this being here. Let me show you what I mean. Get this little boot out of here. There's the boot I was telling you about. Nice little touch, okay? And you slide down their adjustment key, and it gets to a point where it starts going in crooked, okay? And the reason it's going in crooked is because of the Scion XB's overlap here. Now, I guess the real way to do this would be to remove the shock altogether, kind of install this by dropping it down in there and then installing the shock, and then of course this would be already pre-mounted down in there, and then you could just go here and make your adjustments. Now, I didn't think to do that when I first started the installation, and I'm not actually going to do anything about it right now. The reason being is I'm really happy the way this is already handling, and I don't really feel like I need to make any adjustments. So until I feel like I do, I'm just going to kind of leave things the way they are. Hold on to these guys, put this little boot back in here, and be happy with what I got. So one of the things that I realized after about a week of this setup is that I did myself a massive injustice with the way that I had the rear set up. So what I mean by that is that I have this shock completely shortened. I have it as short as it will possibly go. And what that was doing was really shortening my wheel travel in the rear. With this shock as short as it currently is, my wheel was only traveling probably 2.5 inches. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to unbolt this shock, and I want to lengthen it a good inch. You know, even though we're going to lower this in the rear a little bit more, I do want as much kind of shock travel as I can. So I'm going to take this bolt out, and I'm going to give this an inch more travel. So now that I got this collar loose up here, I'm going to loosen the base to give us that inch of shock travel. All right, so we got our shock situated. Now we got to deal with the spring here, and this is where the dropping is going to occur, okay? So as you guys know, this is a coilover setup in the rear. It can be adjusted up and it can be adjusted down, okay? Now, we don't need it adjusted up at all, okay? We just don't need it jacked up. We need it adjusted down as much as possible. And right now, it is in its lowest position, okay? And we're still not happy with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start taking some stuff out, and we're going to start with this big spacer guy right here. This is the adjusting piece that actually raises and lowers the car in the rear. And with that guy out, we will lose the adjustability. However, we will actually get a 1/2 inch or more of drop by removing this guy. So I'm going to lower the jack down a little bit more to let this drop, then we can pull the spring out and get this guy out of here. Alright guys, the rear end is still trying to kill me, but I think I've actually figured it out. So you can see I got the entire driver's side rear setup disassembled here. We got our spring, we got our isolator, we got our rear isolator, we got our plastic kind of isolator that comes with the kit. We have a big washer that goes underneath the adjusting piece. Okay, so now this adjusting piece, it's really not needed. I mean, your springs just sit in your car stock, so I really don't need this adjusting piece at all. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and reassemble this, try it out, and kind of see where we're at. All right guys, so I've made an executive decision here. I have actually omitted everything out of the bottom here. I just want to see how it sits. I think this is actually going to be where I want to be. I have elongated the shock significantly, man, a ton more than it was. I didn't measure before and after, but if you look at the threads here, you can kind of see just how much longer this shock is. And this is kind of now all sitting the way I want it to sit. The shock, the spring is in here. It's a little bit loose because it's at full droop, but once I go ahead and put everything on, it should be compressing there nicely. And I think this is just going to be the setup for me. So before I put the wheel on and we find out what this looks like, I'm going to go ahead and throw on a 5mm wheel spacer. Now, I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, dude, you can't do that. Don't put a wheel spacer on. Oh my God, your wheel's going to fall off. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, not really. Okay, so a 5mm you can get away with safely. You go 10mm or anything like that, yes, you're not going to have much threads to bite on. But I've run these in the past. As you can see, these things aren't new. And 5mm actually does make a pretty significant difference. So when I put this wheel on here, I'm going to be excited to see kind of how flush we are with the rear fender. All right, guys, moment of truth. Let's see where we are here. Now that's what I'm talking about. That's what we're looking for, baby. She low. She real low. What is up, guys? It's the next day out in the XB. The weather is beautiful. It's like 80 degrees and gorgeous. And I've been driving around the suspension now for the last day or two. And believe it or not, we lowered this car substantially more. Because of the changes I made in the rear, it's actually smoother than it was. I mean, so much so that I missed the way it was set up before. The way it was set up before, although bouncy, and it was bouncy, dude, it handled nice. So I'm actually lower now, and it's not handling as well, because really to get the most out of a front wheel drive car, you need a stiff rear end. And with those shocks shortened like I had them, it was creating a stiff rear end. So it was really going into corners nicely. And it's fine now. I'm not saying it's terrible, but I just missed the way that it was driving before. And I have a feeling that I'm going to make that change. So another thing that I had to make a really quick change on were those 5mm spacers in the rear. This thing was rubbing, and it was rubbing pretty substantially with those spacers. So I actually ordered 3mm spacers. I ordered 3mm spacers for all around. So real quick, I want to address actually lowering your vehicle. There are a lot of people online that will say don't do it, it's terrible. There are lots of questions online about, hey, can I lower my car and still have it ride like stock? And there are also questions saying, hey, how low can I possibly go without doing damage? And really, these questions all differ between who's driving the car and also what kind of car it is. For the XB, you can lower this thing pretty low, and it's still pretty safe to drive. I mean, there's nothing really hanging underneath this car that is like dangerous if it gets damaged. In other words, you could lower it low enough where you can't get over speed bumps. You'll literally drag over them. And honestly, you're not going to do anything besides scratch up the bottom of the frame. I mean, it's nothing really going to get hurt, okay? So that's number one. You can go really low in this car. Number two, is it going to ride like stock? No, it's not going to ride like stock. And if you ask me, stock is terrible. It doesn't handle well. It's way too soft. When you hit your brakes, your rear end comes up. I hate the way it rides stock. So the last thing I want is a car that's going to ride stock. I want it to be firm. I want it to be reactive. I want it to feel sporty. And I want it to look cool too. That's what I'm after. I don't want stock. And I don't want it to be low and ride like stock. I don't like stock, all right? So I want something where I really have a very good connection to the road. That's always what I'm after. The third thing is it's always gonna look cooler, man. It's always gonna look cooler low. It's never gonna look better at stock height, trust me. So if you want your car to look a little cooler, if you want it to look a little bit more aggressive, then hell, go ahead and lower that thing, man. It looks so much better, I promise you. You will not go back to stock height, I promise. So overall, guys, I couldn't be happier with the CX Racing suspension. I like it so much that when we do the suspension on the Miata, we're going CX Racing. No doubt about it. It's a phenomenal bang for the buck. I have had zero issues. Again, I got about 1,000 miles on it. I've had zero issues with the installation, with the setup. Now, as you guys know, it fought me installing it, but that was my fault. That was nothing to do with CX Racing. That was all on me. So, fantastic product. I can't recommend it enough. There'll be a link down in the description if you're interested in getting them for yourself. I'm not affiliated with a company. They aren't giving me any money. I picked them out of a hat, man. So yeah, if you're looking for coilovers, if you want to replace everything and not just springs and not just struts, you want to replace your top hats too, you want to have some adjustability, man, I can't recommend them enough. They're an easy pick for me. I would definitely go with them. So anyway, guys, that's the video for today. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. And man, another Toaster Tuesday in the books, man. I hope everyone had a good one. Man, I'm stockpiling some parts right now. I'm stockpiling some parts right now for a sick big brake upgrade. Yeah, I said it. It's coming. It's coming. Probably not next week. Probably the week after. So next week we'll probably handle those stupid rear drums that everybody hates so much. So anyway, guys, that's the video. I'll see you next week. Later.